What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of PlusCast, the Geekiverse talk show, where we focus on all things Disney Plus. I'm Josiah Leroy. With me, my co-hosts here, I've got Mr. Disruptoid himself, John Fick. What's up, John?
Howdy, my friend.
We're ready to talk some Disney Plus as we
Plus.
hopefully we'll never say again. Just kidding. Rashaun, looking wonderful as ever for everyone that's tuning in to the YouTube version of this.
Yes, I'm
What's up?
Disneyed out right now. You got the Marvel hoodie. You got some custom-made Kingdom Hearts Mickey ears that two of my lovely friends, Shane and Kelsey, made for me for my birthday. So, yeah, like we're rocking and rolling here. Let's do it. Let's talk
Ready to go. Let's do it. Yeah, we've got some Avengers in the background. You are decked out. It's wonderful.
Oh yes, you can catch the Endgame.
I want those posters.
Yeah, to catch the Mondo posters, you can see some Keyblade stuff, a lightsaber that's sleeved up. It's just Disney all around the house. Some more, we're just
Well, Rashaun, you were made for this show, so it's perfect.
Oh yes, I was made for a lot of shows, but yes, definitely this show. That's one of them.
It's very true because you're basically on all of the Geekiverse shows.
And at this point, it's almost unfair to point to something and like say that Disney owns it because they own everything. Like
exactly right.
Next year, I'll be able to point behind me and like say, "Oh, look at all that Disney Pokemon stuff that's behind me." Like they just buy it all, my friend. They just buy it all.
Yep.
DC, it's only a matter of time. Yeah, so Disney is to pop culture content as Rashaun is to the Geekiverse, pretty much, right? Like he's all over it. That's how it is.
Yes, that's the master plan. Great minds think alike. Me and Bob Iger, me and that Bob Iger guy, and all the people that predate him.
You guys would have a good conversation.
Oh, we dude. If me and Bob Iger were ever in the same room, let alone at a lunch table or something, there'd be.
Let's get him on the show.
There would be some amazing conversation.
Let's get Bob Iger on PlusCast. Come on, we can do it. Let's.
Tweet us, Bob.
I got to go to Disney a couple more times.
What happened years back? We recorded. We were talking about, I think, the lead up to Captain America: Civil War at the old Geekiverse studio, and one of our former castmates, Trevor White, just casually threw it in when we were talking about good ideas for the future of the MCU. Talking about Kevin Feige, he looks at the camera and goes, "Tweet us, Kev," just like that. And it kind of became like a saying around the Geekiverse. And I missed that. So tweet us, Bob, or tweet us, Kathleen Kennedy. So yeah. As we mentioned, this is all Disney Plus talk. So our monthly show here, you can listen to it on podcast form on Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, and most major streaming platforms, as well as watch the show at youtube.com/The Geekiverse. We've got a bit of an interesting show for you this time. We typically get into a little bit more news, but it was a relatively slow news month. So the meat of the show is going to be a Star Wars: The Clone Wars episode or season 7 spoiler cast. We're not going to spoil that for you just yet. We're going to leave that for just a little bit down the road, and we'll let you know. But we'll get into some of our typical segments beforehand. First of all, as always, what have we been watching on Disney Plus? John, what's been on your playlist there?
Hello there. So yeah, I mean, even though we're going to be talking a lot of Clone Wars in a little bit with season 7, I have to mention the Clone Wars because I have been racing to get caught up for season 7. So this is a monthly show. We haven't caught up in a while. I think when we talked about this last, I was on season 4, and I was kind of just like straggling along, and I'd been on season 4 for a while. Sound about right? Once I heard the hype of Clone Wars season 7, I just crushed through Clone Wars. I just got it took me like a weekend, and I just finished seasons 4, 5, and 6, and I'm like, all right, I'm in, and 7 for what it's worth, because 7 was done by the time I got caught up. So
you like crushed that as fast as Rashaun will crush a 130-hour game.
Yeah.
I would say
Yes.
He somehow can do it in less than 130 hours. Doesn't really add up, but it happens.
It's wild. No, I mean, like the only thing that's like that rivals that for me is when I got caught up with Game of Thrones. When I was watching Game of Thrones, I had season 6 was live. This is a tangent, but whatever. Season 6 was live, and I had a 14-day trial to HBO, and I watched all 5 seasons in those 14 days.
Holy crap!
Yeah, that's 50 hours of content, and then like the first 3 episodes of season 6 or whatever. It's like that was insane. So Clone Wars was close to that. I crushed that, got through it. Man, I love the Clone Wars, dude. Like it is like even like removing season 7, which we'll talk about in a bit. Clone Wars is some of the best Star Wars content that exists. Like there is so much good in there. There are so many incredible arcs. Like I slept on it for so long, and like almost rightfully so, because there's so much filler too. Like I think you have to mention that when you talk Clone Wars is like, first of all, the fact that it's so out of order is a disservice to the show. Like that was jarring to me. If it was just chronological, it would have been better to me. The fact that we're hopping around arcs was like, I first have to
imagine watching that on a week-to-week basis. Too.
Oh, seriously, yeah. Like if that's coming out weekly, and I get an episode where R2D2 and C3PO blow up a spaceship by accident, and I'm mad at that point. But yeah, I think if it was sequential, that would have helped a lot. And I think if the seasons were literally half as long as they are, that would have helped a lot too. All of that being said, I watched it all. I loved it. Clone Wars. It was really, really cool. So like it made me appreciate the prequels so much more. Like it made me really care so much more about those early Anakin storylines and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is I've always been a huge fan of. Like those characters get fleshed out so much more, and like I so full-heartedly understand the Ahsoka Tano hype. Like I am straight up Ahsoka Tano fanboy now. Like so in on Ahsoka. Love Ahsoka.
We got him.
Absolutely.
We got him.
Like all I had to do was watch it, but in my defense, they put up a lot of barriers for people to watch this show. Like I just reflected on those points. Like it's long, there's a lot of filler. They're like, just give us those good arcs and just let that be it. But all said and done. So I've been watching Clone Wars, got caught up, got to 7. We'll talk about it, and now I'm watching Rebels. So I have just finished season 1 of Star Wars Rebels. So I'm through episode 2 in season 2. And like it is a direct mirror of Clone Wars. It's hitting everything I'm saying. There is no filler. Every episode matters. Like
that'll change.
Well, I mean, so far, like the season 1 was an arc. It wasn't like this 3 episode arc, and then we travel in time, and then this arc doesn't matter. But guess what? It's 4 episodes, so good luck. I haven't had that yet. I mean, like a lot of the stuff in season 1 was not Darth Vader related. Like Darth Maul wasn't involved. Ahsoka didn't come towards the end, so like there wasn't those big heavy hitters. But the story was self-contained. Like this, I cared about the story regardless. I cared about all those characters that I was learning, like Ezra and all these new characters. Like I cared right off the bat. Whereas the dichotomy with Clone Wars is like I know of all these characters, and you're telling me these storylines that I don't really care about, and like I know there's supposed to be some good stuff. So where is it? And that's kind of my comparison through watching all of Clone Wars and then just a season and 2 episodes of Rebels.
John, I gotta say, obviously I got to Clone Wars sooner than you did, but I had a lot of those same barriers at first. Like I just I struggled to find interest in it despite it being Star Wars. I also saw the Clone Wars movie in theaters before all this started, and that is not great by any means. Like I would argue too that this the series did not find its footing for at least a season and a half, and because of the messiness with the chronological order and the arcs, some of the filler content, like it is a tough sell at first to make you stick around.
Yeah.
And Rebels like was something I dove right into. I gotta say, I don't know where the majority of Star Wars fandom ranks these days. I feel like Ahsoka and the Clone Wars are just like the hot topics right now, but like I like Rebels better for what it's worth. It felt more consolidated, concise. Here's your arc. We're going to go and carry it throughout the whole season, just about. And there was very little filler content. Now it does exist. There's an episode here or there where you're like, oh my gosh, we're doing this again.
That's all I'll say.
Yeah, but you say 1 space whales, I could give you 13 Clone Wars arcs that are not worth it.
Yes,
Yes,
I
agree. And I could tell that even just based on the episode or the season lengths on Rebels. Like it just seems like they're shorter seasons too. Like the first season of Rebels was 12 episodes or something like that, maybe 10. So I can just tell. And I've heard that sentiment that you just shared, Josiah, echoed from somebody else I trust in the Star Wars community. If you're a kind of funny fan, Barrett Courtney, very big into both animated Star Wars shows. He also says Rebels is a better show just because of how much more tight it is. As I hit my mic, sorry about that. But it's just a tighter package apparently. So I'm excited for a ride that I don't have to feel or that I don't have to dread going into and kind of luck into enjoying, which is kind of the way Clone Wars was for me, maybe until season 6. Like once I got to season 6 in Clone Wars, like we were all systems go, and I really cared about all the storylines. Like basically once Darth Maul gets involved, I'm all in Clone Wars, but I suffered through a lot to get there.
I mean, think about that. That's like a crazy thing to say almost. That you had to wait till season 6 before you were all about watching that show. in some way, shape, or form. So it's tough. With Rebels too, I feel like there's so many different highlights, but season 2 really hits its stride. Like, one is good, and this is when Disney took over. So it was not far after that Rebels launched. So it was, hey, how can we really hype what people loved about Star Wars originally, which is for the most part the original trilogy and stuff from that time period. And then they started working in elements from the Clone Wars and a little bit from the prequels, and it just blends beautifully.
Yeah,
I remember watching season 2 live, man. Season 2 starts off with a bang.
Yeah, those
man.
first 2 episodes are.
Yes. And the final 2, it's a 2-part episode. So 2 episodes really for season 2 of Rebels. Some of my favorite Star Wars content ever.
Yep.
It is, especially now, John, that you've seen Clone Wars, like, it is hard hitting. It ties everything together, and it even kind of, in a small way, teases some of what we get in the sequel trilogy many years later.
For sure.
So yeah,
kind of to wrap up my thoughts on that. If you are a Star Wars fan at all, don't skip Clone Wars, but find a list that will skip the bad stuff for you. Like, I did that. So that's worth noting too, is I skipped a bunch of stuff and I still felt like I was wasting some time, So like, if you're interested at all, I promise you the content is there. There is so much good Star Wars in there. Like, it really does enhance the prequels. If you're meh or so or don't like the prequels, like, I would challenge you to watch some of those better Clone Wars arcs and then see how you think about some of those characters. Like, much like we discussed in our MCU show, the MCU reviewed, how some of those later movies make some of these earlier movies stand out a little more.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I've actually got a bunch of friends personally that have recently gotten into into Clone Wars, especially to get, prepared for season 7. I would say for anyone that is prospective and thinking about it, I would definitely look up the same link I share with my buddies. It is just type it on Google, Star Wars Clone Wars episode.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
Episode list. There's one right from IGN that I personally pull from. It's like the first one that pops up, gives you everything.
The one I used was from Kotaku. It was good. I even just read some of the synopsises and skipped the ones that I didn't care about. Like, even the ones that they recommended, and I just read their synopsis of what that arc was going to be, and I'm like, I'm good. I'm here for Ahsoka and Darth Maul. So if it doesn't have to do with that anymore, I'm kind of out. But if anybody recommends if you are on the fence about getting into Clone Wars and somebody says just watch it all, don't just watch it all. Because if you're on the fence about it, there's a reason you're on the fence about it, and you're going to see a lot of stuff that's going to make you not care about it. Find a good list.
Yeah, I echo that sentiment for sure. Rashaun, what have you been watching on Disney Plus?
I've been doing this thing called Disney Movie Sundays. I've always kind of wanted to do this, where every Sunday my goal is just to take one Disney movie and just watch it. Preferably maybe something I haven't watched, but even if I'm going back in the catalog, just because with Disney Plus, this app has obviously so much goodness that means a lot to me. But I recently delved into 2 movies I haven't seen that I've always meant to see. I just wasn't in a rush. I actually watched the Cars movies. I've seen 1, but I never saw 2 and 3. And the things I heard didn't really make me want to watch 2 and 3. I know some people would disagree. I actually do like the first Cars. I thought it at least had some element of charm and whatnot to it for what they were going for at that time. Man, Cars 2. I see why people hate that. I see why some people never went back. Cars 2 is a great movie if you're drunk. If you're not drunk, don't watch it. They just go as crazy as you think you would go for a Cars movie. They ramp that up. It's too crazy to where the movie doesn't need to exist. Cars 3, that's another one. I know some people didn't like that. I do like Cars 3. If you want to watch the Cars movies, just watch 1 and 3. 2, get drunk and then watch it. And then I recently watched for the first time, originally a direct-to-DVD movie, I believe, The Three Musketeers with Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. It was cute. Nothing crazy to really write home about, but it was cute. And I watched The Princess and the Frog as well. So those are the 4 things I've been watching as the weeks have gone by. I just watched the 2 Cars movies back to back just because why not? But yes, I know we're going to probably talk about it, but I have not dived into the Mandalorian documentary yet. I think I'm waiting until it finishes. Something like that.
I've watched that.
Wait till
If you want me
Yeah.
to speak to that real quick, I've watched the first 2 episodes. It's cool. I
Yeah.
mean, like it's a fun documentary. Like it is. There's no insight that you don't already know by just being a Star Wars fan. There's nothing. There's no. Again, 2 episodes in, so 3 episodes in. Are we 3 episodes in? I've watched them all.
I think it's
3 too. Yeah, I've watched them all. Whatever's out there. I just watched the most recent one on Friday. It's been fun. They're a half hour. They fly by. It is really cool. I mean, it's led by Jon Favreau. He's sitting at a table and he's talking to. It rotates based on like what the topic is, but it'll either be the cast of directors. They really focus in how each of the episodes is really like completely done by a different director. And like I almost didn't get that. Again, if I'm paying attention, I'm sure I can pick up on that stuff while I'm watching the show. But they really nail it home that like every episode is a film directed by someone different. And they kind of give you some of that stuff there. So it's really cool to see those directors. They also bring in some of the cast and that kind of stuff. Standout has been like Taika Waititi for me. Watching him talk about this stuff has been really fun. Yeah, it's cool. Again, nothing crazy. It's not going to blow your mind. Again, we're 3 episodes in, so maybe some of that behind the scenes insight is yet to come, but worth the watch. Again, 23 minutes just flies by.
Yeah, I've only watched the first episode, so I'm a little bit behind, but I really, really enjoy the perspectives of behind the scenes stuff. Anything on Star Wars, I just can't get enough of it. But Jon Favreau in particular is just a wonderful moderator.
So good.
And he is fun to listen to from insight, even just how he interacts with the other directors is awesome. And it's funny to see like The Mandalorian has done a really nice job of being MCU-like in that they've all it's all under one umbrella, but they've got a nice continuity and a different flavor without being off the same page.
For sure.
Whereas some of the Star Wars sequel trilogy, you can argue there were some issues with that, for better or worse, with JJ and then Ryan and then Colin and back to JJ. So I agree with John. The Taika Waititi stuff, he's another person I can't get enough of.
So
just between Thor Ragnarok, What We Do in the Shadows is a wonderful movie if you haven't seen that. And John, did you ever watch on Thor Ragnarok, the intro? They always do like a director's intro nowadays on MCU movies.
No, I have not.
So I don't know if it's available on Disney Plus. I think it is, but if you have the Blu-ray or the digital copy, each director, they give like a 2-minute intro basically on their share of the film. And Taika before Thor Ragnarok is just being Taika. He's hilarious. He's off the wall. And he's like, oh, my parents are like, oh, you got Thor Ragnarok. That's nice, but you didn't get Star Wars. Why couldn't you be like J.J. Abrams? Then we could have called you J.J. And I think it's hysterical that years later now he gets to do that.
That's
right.
really cool.
Like he's the next guy to do a Star Wars movie. And he worked on Mandalorian. So lots of fun there. Like he's one of my favorite people in Hollywood right now.
Have you seen Jojo Rabbit?
No, I haven't.
I've never recommended anything to you before. Watch Jojo Rabbit. Like, dude.
Yes, you have. And you've always recommended good stuff.
I've never like wholeheartedly said like, dude, this is like the next thing you should do. Watch
good to know that all of it was half-hearted.
No, but like I've never been passionate like, oh yeah, I've given you recommendations like, oh, I think you like this or that. Like you should watch Jojo Rabbit if you like Taika.
That's fair.
It is so good. It should be the next movie you watch is what I'm saying.
That's fair. I definitely need to watch it. I've been such a Taika fan. There's not much to say. I need to watch it.
For sure.
So in terms of what I've been watching, Disney Plus, the Mando documentary, I've enjoyed so far. Parents out there, I'm your guy. Listen, I can recommend some stuff for your kids here. So first of all, finally, my 1.5-year-old has decided that it's a good idea to add to her typical 3 or 4 movie rotation to movies like Frozen and Moana, which I've seen no short of 100 times each because those are the only movies she wants on. That's fine. They're good movies.
And they're good.
But
yeah.
That being said, I'm very happy she added this to her rotation. Tangled. So
yes.
Tangled the movie, I was like, yeah, it's okay, whatever. But I've come to very much appreciate, and I don't know if it's just because I needed something new for her to watch, X amount of times a day. But she loves anything with music and the animation style that you would see in a movie like Frozen or Tangled or Moana. I love Zachary Levi. I can't get enough of his character in that movie. And the ironic part in all of this is that for the first Nickel City Con that Daisy was alive, she, cosplayed with my wife, and she was Pascal. They dressed her up in a self-made Pascal suit, so that was fun.
That's awesome.
There's a sing-along series. There are 2 episodes in that Disney has been filming since the quarantine began, I believe. And it basically will feature stars in their homes, kind of in the manner that we're recording. They will record, and they do Disney sing-alongs from all these different famous Disney songs. My favorite of which is Josh Gad singing Olaf's song from Frozen 2, and the name is escaping me right now. But it's absolutely hysterical because he puts his own comedic spin on it.
Cool.
So I definitely recommend that. Guys, I've been watching a lot of Marvel Cinematic Universe on there. I know that goes without saying, but that
yes, that is true.
That is a nice little plug to say if you like Marvel or the MCU at all, what are you doing? Check out the MCU Reviewed. We're doing a watch along 1 episode a week, 1 Marvel movie per week of the entire MCU. Now, a good chunk of it is available on there. We've got a few movies that are not on there. Like John probably had to illegally download The Incredible Hulk or whatever he did to watch that. But Thor's on there, and we just watched that this week. So check that out. Speaking of Marvel, I'm almost done, guys, I swear. Agent Carter, I've actually never watched until about the last month or so. And it was on my Netflix list for years. And I have no excuse. I have this problem where I will watch the same show over 100 times before I dive into a new one.
With you,
so
man.
The Office, I've seen, it feels like 1,000 times. And instead of The Office, I could, start Breaking Bad or name this show here. Agent Carter is one of those. And I've watched a few episodes, and it's grounded, and I'm enjoying it.
Cool.
Last thing, I could say this is for the kids, but it's really for me. Lego Star Wars, the Yoda Chronicles. So my wife actually told me about this. I did not realize it was on there. It's really, really funny.
Cool.
Del Reed mentioned this when we were talking as well, that some of the jokes are really geared towards adults. And it's just kind of like self-aware, making fun of Star Wars, but set in the Star Wars universe stories. So, for example, Palpatine and Vader are about to embark on their next mission, and they bring up Kashyyyk. And Vader spews off all this stuff about what region it's in and what happened there. And Palpatine goes, "Wow, you're a Star Wars nerd." And just little things like that, like throughout the whole thing, make it really funny and just stupid. There's probably like 8 to 10 episodes, and I would definitely recommend that, especially if you can get your kids to watch it with you. All right, so that's it for what we've been watching. We want to hear from what you, the community at home, have been watching on Disney Plus. Drop some comments on Facebook and Twitter for that. We'll get to the news here. We mentioned there's not a lot of news to get to. First of all, some rumors have been floating around, and my opinion on all of this is where there's smoke, there's fire, because there's a lot of smoke right now, is that Tamora Morrison is coming to The Mandalorian, whether that's season 2 or season 3. I would have to bet season 3 at this point, but that he will be playing the role of Boba Fett. We don't know what capacity, whether it's a cameo or a recurring character, but Tamora Morrison was Jango Fett in the prequel trilogy, as well as the voice of all of the clones. So kind of cool news here. And of course it's Star Wars news, so it piques our interest. But John, any reaction to this at all?
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I think we've all been waiting for one of these Disney Plus shows to finally tie its way back into the main franchise that it stemmed off from in a very meaningful way. So to bring in a main character like that, obviously the MCU shows are doing that. They're hitting the nail on the head. They're direct spin-offs, but we don't have that yet. So all we really have is The Mandalorian. So we've been waiting for something like this, for a big movie character to make its a real appearance in one of these Disney Plus shows. So I think we all kind of have rumored that, or even just some conjecture that Boba Fett would probably make his way into The Mandalorian, given the theme of being about a Mandalorian. There was a lot of not rumors, but what wasn't there? I've only actually seen The Mandalorian once, so forgive my ignorance. But wasn't there a scene where there was this very obscure character that was off screen that had just taken somebody down, and everyone's like, "Well, was that Boba Fett? Didn't that something like that happen?"
Yes. So on Tatooine,
yeah.
The character that Ming-Na Wen plays, she gets killed by I don't even remember his name, but the kid that the Mandalorian is riding with that
Yeah, the
day.
bounty hunter.
Yes, and it seems everyone speculates that the person that walked up is Boba Fett.
We don't know who it is, but there was speculation.
Right.
And wasn't there some there were some context clues that pointed towards Boba Fett. I remember looking into it when it happened. So I think ever since that happened, and even just like the whole Mandalorian arc, and obviously the name of the show, we've kind of thought that would be a no-brainer to bring him back. But exciting.
Yeah, and would confirm a long-standing rumor that Boba Fett survived the Sarlacc pit.
I thought that was canon confirmed, was it not?
I don't know that it's canon confirmed. I know it was expanded universe.
I thought they confirmed that. You guys would both know more than me, but I thought I had heard that was also brought back into the Disney stuff too.
Nothing official. It's always been teased and heavily. It was so heavily spectated to the point of, John, someone could misunderstand that it was officially confirmed. But nothing official. So in my case, my take on this is like, cool that I guess we finally have that confirmation. Normally, especially with Star Wars, this was something for a while. I was like, oh, why bring Boba Fett back? But present day, years later, after the rumors and speculation, I'm down for it. Especially in a show like The Mandalorian, I think they can, whether it's a villain role, whether it's a again supporting character to Mando, I think they can make some magic work with that. And again, bring Boba Fett to the modern audience, because the prequels don't count because he was a kid at that time. The most that we've got from Boba Fett was in the seeing him literally grow up throughout the Clone Wars. But from a live action capacity, we haven't seen Boba Fett. Some people like me weren't even born. So I think that's great. I love the news. I'm interested to see what they're going to do. And yeah, I would definitely assume that he either appears last episode, like season finale of episode 2, or somewhere in season 3. I don't think we get him for the majority of season 2. If he is, it's like a last 10-minute of season 2. How do we make the audience's jaws drop and have them come back for next season?
Yeah, we got to remember that a lot of the filming and production is done on season 2. So to talk about, reference back last week's episode, we're talking about the casting of forget the actress's name for Ahsoka Tano.
Rosario Dawson,
who I've only seen in Clerks 2. Great film, you should watch that. So I mean, like, that came out, but we don't really expect to get too much from these characters, given the fact that all of this production is seemingly done, especially the filming. So, I mean, it's gonna be interesting to see how much we get. There's
a lot of, fun rumors floating around like that, for Ahsoka, and then for Boba Fett. I'm into it due to the sole fact that it's Tamora Morrison that's rumored to be doing this. He's the guy. He's the voice. They even, say what you will about the special editions of the original trilogy, but they went back and redubbed his voice over Boba Fett's. And then he even was Tamura was around for voicing the clones in a lot of the video games in the mid 2000s there. So like Star Wars Battlefront and Battlefront 2, and I think even some of the early Clone Wars stuff from Cartoon Network before the Clone Wars animated series. So there was a lot to like about a character like him. Or an actor like him, I should say. And really, I think that would be a nice comeback. And to Rashaun's point, I think that the perfect way to tease it would be have him just have that little glimpse at the end of season 2. Not that people need a reason to hype back for season 3, but I think that would really throw it through the roof there. In terms of content coming to Disney Plus in the month of June, not a ton here to highlight. First off, Artemis Fowl was originally going to be in movie theaters. That is going to be coming straight to the service as a result of the COVID-19 quarantine. That will be available on June 12th. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning, that's been a relatively popular movie over the years. That will be coming also on June 12th. And then there's a few other movies. And then in terms of TV shows, we're going to get more of pretty much ongoing series from what we've got, including the Mandalorian behind the scenes. Anything to write home for either of you guys that's coming for June?
For me, the one thing that will get added to my Disney movie Sundays, at least added to that queue, for me it'll be Tarzan 1. I haven't seen Tarzan I want to say it's been like 8 to 10 years. And that's of course one of those classics where, of course, there's some corporate arguments about that movie, of course, in terms of where that is in Disney now, but just in terms of the movie itself. I haven't seen that in a while, so I'm very interested. I don't remember even many of the songs from it. I obviously remember the plot line, but even from the song standpoint, it'll be one of those rewatches where you haven't done it in so long that it almost feels like a new movie. Oh, almost. Again, I know the major plot points, but besides that, that's really the only thing for me here that really sticks out. I haven't delved into much TV in Disney Plus, like going back and watching like some of the old shows, just because some of them I'd like to remember them as I did, as a kid, especially for some of those. I don't want to go back now years later in my early 20s and watch some of that stuff. I'll protect my image of those. So some of those shows I won't be going back to. I'm sticking mainly to movies.
That's a good point. If you basically Google what's going to be coming to Disney Plus, we're also going to provide a link in the article for this at thegeekiverse.com. But tell us, is there something we should be watching from this list of movies and TV that will be coming in June? Let us know on social media. We are going to get to kind of the bulk of the show here. We're going to spoil season 7 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. If you have not watched that yet and don't want it spoiled, just bookmark this, go watch it, and come right back. But we're going to get into spoiler territory here and just give you our thoughts, feelings, analysis, all of the above on this. We got a 12-episode arc here, long awaited. Little background here. Disney takes over the Star Wars franchise and effectively cancels the ongoing Clone Wars that was going on Cartoon Network after Season 5. We eventually got a released version of Season 6 in some way, shape, or form on home video and Netflix. 20 episodes. And then after all this time, we get the final season. It's a little bit funny that Disney Plus calls this a Disney Plus original because only 12 episodes are original, even though they didn't start with the series.
The Bad Batch was done before Disney bought them, right? Pretty sure that arc
was
completely done too. So
I thought so, because we're gonna get into it, but that felt like filler that John was talking about. Even though it important to Rex, of course, but filler clones content. Yeah.
So Disney cancels the show and then hails themselves as heroes and brings it back here. And you know what? That's okay, because more Star Wars is more Star Wars.
Agreed.
But let's get into our initial impressions, what we thought about the season as a whole here. I'm going to start with John again here. Give me your analysis on this.
Yeah, I think as an entire season, it was a good season. I think the first 2 arcs are give or take. I think they're borderline filler. They're entertaining. They're in the new animation style, so it's maybe even just worth watching because it's so pretty to look at. We've come a long way in the Clone Wars. Not even new animation style. It's just an evolution. Like I watched all of it in a couple of months, so I was able to really notice the progression of the animation style. Also, this is the first season in 4K HDR. Makes a big difference, especially when it comes to animation. I think those first 2 arcs, you've got the Bad Batch arc, and then you've got the Ahsoka arc, where she finds those 2 sisters. She's kind of on the run from, not on the run, but she's just, we're catching up with Ahsoka and her new lifestyle post Jedi Academy. Both of those arcs are a little boring. That's it. I mean, there's some good stuff in there. I think that you needed that bridge to figure out what Ahsoka was doing when she comes back for the final 4 episodes, when things really start to go the way we wanted to, and the final 4 episodes really become a prequel and literally just coincide with the episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Like that's when things really get good. Those last 4 episodes are just off the wall, absolutely amazing. I'm still waiting for somebody on Reddit who promised he was going to edit the last 4 of these episodes alongside the beginning of Revenge of the Sith. Super excited. Ooh. Yeah, someone's gonna make it time for time. And apparently that Darth Maul fight with Ahsoka is perfectly timed with whatever's going on at Revenge of the Sith. It must be
the Dooku fight.
It must be the Dooku. Well, no, wait, because Ahsoka already knows that Dooku's dead at that point, right?
I would have to watch it. I would have to watch it again. If something tells me there was because there was a scene when Ahsoka and Obi-Wan meet up, and at that time,
that's before.
I think after that Darth Maul.
No, that's before the Maul fight. I think it might be the scene where Anakin is turning and making that call to kill Mace Windu or to let Mace Windu die. I think that might be the scene that's coinciding with the Maul fight.
I think you might be right.
Because if you watch both of them, they're timed up perfectly, and like literally, if you watch them at the same time, the glass breaks at the exact same time. Like it is like down to the last minute detail. And if you watch these two scenes at the same time, it's
I'm remembering now,
beat for beat. So they did really, really incredible work to make this last arc really serve itself as a prequel to the last prequel.
It we always talk about Star Wars being poetry, like the rhyme, if you will, and that's a good point right there. With how it leads into and simultaneously happens during some of Revenge of the Sith is just quite amazing.
It's really good.
I would almost say, maybe not quite, but the last 4 episodes are to Revenge of the Sith what Rogue One is to A New Hope for me, where it really just enhances what I feel about the latter part there quite a bit.
Yeah.
Even though I already liked them.
Yeah, I think the biggest difference there is it really is a different storyline. Like, you're not getting any more developments with Anakin or Obi-Wan or Grievous or anybody who's around in episode 3. Like, that stuff is happening on the side. You are getting what's happening to these other core characters at the same time. So the only difference is we don't even know these characters exist while we're watching episode 3, right? Like, it's not until the Clone Wars introduces them and everything like that. But you're right. It's so complimentary. It is really, really well done.
Rashaun, give us your initial take on just impressions on all of this.
Yeah, I pretty much agreed everything with what John said. The one thing I didn't know going into the Clone Wars, and I purposely stayed away from a lot of the news from this pre-release. I didn't know it was going to literally not only. I figured it was going to end before Revenge of the Sith. I had no knowledge that it was going to directly intertwine. So that threw me for a loop when Order 66 happened.
Oh my god, that's so cool.
And then by that time I kind of guessed, but just seeing that I'm like, what is going on? And like, we're actually getting this basically Ahsoka's Revenge of the Sith, like basically what she was doing. It's basically all that it is.
Yeah.
And seeing how Maul got away too, that was also a question of mine, because you go from the Clone Wars when we last saw him before season 7, and then if you just follow chronological timeline, then he's in he would go, Josiah, correct me if I'm wrong, it would be Rebels then Solo. Am I right?
Solo first.
Right, because it's taking place right before A New Hope, and Han Solo will be older, right? So it would be Solo. You see him in that Easter egg, and then all the stuff with Rebels goes in.
I thought this was a Clone Wars spoilercast, not a Rebel spoilercast. Come on, now I know that Darth Maul's in it. Just kidding.
John, you knew. I was gonna say you knew he was.
He's literally in the poster when you click on Disney Plus and click on Rebels.
Maul's in Solo.
That's true.
But yeah, so seeing that how he got away was cool. But yeah, man, they did a really good job, and I love how we're emphasizing the 4 episodes, because it truly is. To John's point, the Bad Batch stuff for me, that was just filler. And the Ahsoka stuff, again, John hit it right on the head. Like, it was filler, but also it's one of those filler that you can argue is necessary, only just to show what Ahsoka was doing.
You needed
to
something.
Get to that.
Yeah, you couldn't just have her show up like, all right, she left the Jedi and now she's back. Like, you needed a little bit of her life. Whether it's could it have been better? Sure. I wish it was I wish it lived up to the quality of these last 4 episodes, but we needed something.
Yeah.
It's filler, but less filler.
Sure.
I guess. Somewhat relevant to.
There's filler that's meaningful. Filler doesn't always mean bad. I think Bad Batch is an example of how filler is just there. You don't need to really watch it. But I think this one, maybe to a lesser degree, but I think that Ahsoka's with the sisters, I think that's filler that you could potentially benefit from watching. Potentially.
I feel like if with the Bad Batch arc, the first 4 episodes, I would not have cared at all about that if it wasn't for the hype of the returning Clone Wars. And even then it was iffy.
Yeah.
So I try to think back, before we really dive into the last arc here. Is there anything meaningful from those first 8 episodes? Because I got to tell you, I was in a tough spot. I was like, oh my gosh, we waited this long. This is what the Clone Wars are. Like, Like, they better ramp things up for the last 4 episodes. I think about a small moment in the second episode when Anakin's talking to Padme, and he comes out, and Obi-Wan basically kind of like shrugs almost to the camera and says, like, I know what's going on.
Tell Padme. I hope you told Padme I said hello.
Yeah, I really, really like that.
Yeah.
A small, kind of inconsequential moment. There is one moment, I don't remember if it was episode 3 or 4, but Anakin really shows like a dark side. He shows, I really don't even call the interaction totally, but like Vader comes out here a little bit. I'd have to go back and watch, and this is how inconsequential the first 4 episodes were to me. But there's a moment when he is like bearing down on an enemy, and he gets nasty, and like you're like, oh my gosh, you feel like him finally in the Clone Wars being a little bit like Vader, whereas we didn't see that before. So I thought that was nice too. Just in the second 4 episodes with Ahsoka, you got to get some perspective. So I agree with Rashaun saying it's kind of meaningful filler, where we have to see her in between the end of her days as a Jedi and then returning to what we see in episodes 9 through 12. We have to get some mindset there. What has she been up to? Like, she's off on her own for the first time in her life, right? Because she's been at the Jedi Temple since she was probably a toddler, I would imagine. So it's good to see a little bit of that.
Yeah,
could I have lived without it? Yeah.
I almost don't think it's even fair to call it filler, because we said we did need to see this. Like, this is main story Clone Wars. Like, if you think about it, Ahsoka is she the main character of the Clone Wars? Kind of. Like, her and Anakin, right? Like, this is her story. Like, we had to see where she was going to be. It just wasn't that good. I think that's why we're kind of referring to it as filler, because like it meets that filler quality, but like we had to see something.
I just don't know if I ever even needed it. Like I say, we needed it, but I don't know. Like, I guess I could have even just guessed, and like if they started and just did episodes 9 through 12, I would have been fine. At the end of the day, I am always a relative Star Wars apologist, so I can always find the positive in anything. I can really.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Part of me wonders why. So obviously the bulk of this is for the last 4 episodes. Part of me wonders why they couldn't just make a 2-hour animated movie.
Oh, I think that conversation was had, my friend. I think that was absolutely had. I think that Dave Filoni probably would have wanted that, but
started with a movie. Why not end with a,
Yeah, I think that conversation probably went something along the lines of, well, the Clone Wars is what it is. We'll give you one more season to wrap it up the best you can. I think that's how that conversation went.
Probably.
Two instant things come to mind there. From a business standpoint, perception of the Clone Wars movie is not good. It's not on par with the series. It's even worse than seasons 1 and maybe 1.5 and 2 of Clone Wars. It's just not good. Like, I watched it even back a few years ago, and I was like, oh my gosh.
It is arguably the worst Star Wars movie, period.
Oh, yeah.
It might be, actually.
It's some of the, again, I could find positives in all of this. It's some of the worst on-screen Star Wars content out there. So to have that perception, to be only 2 Clone Wars movies, if you will, that would be tough. The other part is not that they're hurting for money, but you either release a 2-hour movie or 12 episodes that force someone to subscribe to Disney Plus over the course of 2 to 3 months.
Yeah.
That's definitely a factor.
Yeah. Right.
So as much as I would love to see all of that wrapped up into a movie, and honestly, I treat those last 4 episodes like a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it. So I think the time is clear now that let's gush about those last 4 episodes. I want to lead off here real quick, but think about this as I'm building this up. I think about watching that 9th episode and how kind of lackluster or blah the first 8 were. And oh my gosh, I remember being like, wow, and I can't believe that's happening, and like literally applauding it at times.
Just think of the first thing you see. You see the Lucasfilm LTD. That's never happened.
Oh,
like where did
gosh,
that come from?
Totally fanboy, because that is old school Star Wars right there.
And
Lucasfilm, right?
When we recorded, it probably wasn't the last episode, maybe the one prior. That was the most current episode, and you guys were talking about how, like, okay, things have really changed, and you mentioned that, like, once you saw that, it just set a different tone, and you were just in this different zone. It just felt different than those first 8 episodes, or well, 8 or whatever. Yeah, it was 8, right? So
Yep.
And then so I'm watching and I'm expecting it. Like I know that this intro is going to be different. I forgot that it was Lucasfilm. I wasn't sure if they were just going to do like the red Clone Wars or whatever. They've done that in the past, but like it still hit me. I'm like, oh, like all right, this is different.
It's time to get serious now, is how it went.
Mhm.
And you see the Lucasfilm, and first of all, that's just nostalgia to its finest for me with the original 6 movies and even the Clone Wars first 5 seasons. And then I think about seeing the red letters and how just naturally in tone it tells you that is going to be in sync with Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, they have used that
promotion was
in the past, though. They have used those red letters in the past for the Clone Wars.
They have, and it's just
it
was eye popping.
And the crawl was there was actually, I think there was a bit of a crawl. I think they had,
yes.
and they also used the original. They used the Star Wars music. They didn't just use the Clone Wars opening. They used the official, like the same. Yeah. Like they used the same stuff you get in the movies. Like it was different. So
that stage is set. We dive into it, and honestly, I can't get enough of that episode. And it's perfectly paced, and it flies by, and I cannot wait for the next week's episode to follow up. And that's how I felt pretty much throughout that run of 4 weeks there. Take me through your emotions on all of this. As longtime Star Wars fans, whether you just saw the Clone Wars like John or you saw them years ago, what are you feeling when you see these last 4 episodes here?
I was kind of spoiled because I got to binge them all. So like when I was getting caught up, like I caught up right when the final episode. So I think they did something different where they debuted the last episode on Monday, May the 4th, right? So I spent that weekend catching up basically. So I was caught up by Monday, and I woke up and I was into season 7. I had those last 4 episodes left, and they were all live for me. So I just crushed those in like a movie setting. I watched them all back to back to back for the first time. That was cool. That was very cool.
Rashaun, longtime Ahsoka fan, longtime Clone Wars fan. What was it like diving into that 9th episode and then through the rest of that arc?
Once I realized what we were getting with that 9th episode, I was all hands on deck. I think I literally yelled something out loud. But just seeing it wrapped up for me, again, I was there for the movie when it first aired, and I was there for episode 1 way back when. So I've been with Clone Wars since the beginning, and finally I didn't think it would be in my early 20s I'd see it wrapped up. I thought it would be a lot sooner. But man, it's so nice seeing it wrapped up because we can put a bow on it, and Filoni and crew can move on to new things, which is nice. And then we can take the Ahsoka character and do more things with her, like we're getting with Mando season 2, it seems like. So great stuff, man. I mean, Clone Wars for me, curious if you guys agree or disagree. When you look at the prequel trilogy, obviously Clone Wars can enhance your experience, right? I think it definitely does, and makes the prequels a little bit more tolerable for those who don't like the prequels. In my perfect Star Wars prequel universe, if I had to go back in time and orchestrate things, I personally, the whole Obi-Wan movie thing that we keep getting back and forth, and now it's a series, I would have made that the Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace would have been Obi-Wan's movie, and that would have been his standalone movie, essentially. Clone Wars, in my movie universe, I would have made that a trilogy. Clone Wars, in my opinion, definitely should have been a trilogy. It was one movie, and you saw what happened. They had to make a whole TV series to supplement things. Obviously, the Clone Wars did things that you still couldn't do in the movies, but I think that would have helped a lot with fleshing out certain details of the Clone Wars, since it was, a giant war. And then Revenge of the Sith, in my opinion, should have been 2 movies. Even though Revenge of the Sith, for me, is the most tolerable of the prequels, it still, for me, just had, I feel like Anakin, if you're just watching the prequels 1, 2, and 3, Anakin, in my opinion, just, dark side now, forget it. Like, I'm just turning, where you could have seen that progression from your trilogy with the Clone Wars. And then you could have had one movie like Revenge of the Sith as is could have been one movie. You probably could have even have done the second movie as him actually Darth Vader hunting down Jedi. You could have brought Inquisitors in that way. And that's what we thought we were getting way back when with Revenge of the Sith. We didn't get that. Any Jedi hunting that we got was quick, 5-second. Oh, Plo Koon's dead. Oh, this character's dead. Oh, like everyone's just dead, like within literally 5 minutes. Where that could have been an entire movie of just Vader cutting down Jedi. That would have been amazing. So that's my fan fiction of Star Wars. But to bring that all back to Clone Wars gives me a lot of what I wanted from a trilogy of mine that I would have wanted in this series, even though, again, you got to endure an entire series. And then, even to my point, a little bit there.
It's a lot to unpack, and I like it.
That's a long theory. I've wanted that theory for like years, like maybe like a decade at this point.
I think there's no way to, you can go so many different ways with what we wanted to happen. Like you can splice it this way. You can say Clone Wars should have been a series and X, Y, and Z should have been films. I think the fact that we have this is awesome. Much like what we talked about in the MCU, like this really does, as somebody who can watch all three of those movies, the prequels, of course, and I can enjoy so much of them, but I can still recognize the fact that they're bad movies. Like there's really no defending the fact that they're good movies in my opinion. Obviously, this is also all very subjective, but the Clone Wars was able to take that thought and, I mean, like I enjoy those characters that like really bothered me before, like the way Anakin was portrayed, especially in Episode 2, like that. Really bothered by that romantic relationship between him and Padme in that movie, and the Clone Wars fixed that for me, for lack of a better term. Like I really am appreciative that this series exists, because I can now throw on those movies because I have seen the Clone Wars and I can just enjoy them a little more. So I think this final season really put a bow on that for me.
I think a lot of people will share that sentiment, where this makes the prequels either more tolerable or more enjoyable, depending on your opinion of them. To Rashaun's point, there was a criticism I actually did have for Revenge of the Sith, was that Anakin's fall feels very quick. We don't really, despite the cues and the clues that George Lucas thought he was giving in Episode 2, whether it's like the Tusken Raiders or even just getting married, it's not what we, I think, should have probably gotten or thought we were getting with seeing Anakin's descent to be in Darth Vader. I think also, I gotta say, the Clone Wars really does enhance a lot with those prequels. It takes its time. It isn't confined to a 2.5 hour movie. It can take its time with some of the storytelling and really, Ahsoka predominantly is a reason that we didn't know back in the day, because Ahsoka didn't exist. But she's a convenient reason for why, Anakin, you can add a layer of why he goes to the dark side, why he doesn't trust the Jedi. Because in Episode 3, we really get the assumption that, he's just kind of being, pitted against the Chancellor here by the Jedi. They don't like him, and that's about it. And he's just a little bit conflicted by that. But now we really see, a lot deeper. At the point that we see Anakin in Revenge of the Sith, his apprentice, who he is very close to, like that's like a sister to him, I would say. She was basically expelled, right?
I mean,
like from the Jedi Order.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to see that and to know the pain that he went through to see her walk away when the Jedi Order was almost too political, that really adds a layer to the whole thing that you will never understand unless you probably watch the Clone Wars. So there's a lot to be said there. Sure. And Rashaun, I like how you said maybe Obi-Wan that could have been a fun standalone movie, and at the end it's teased that we get Anakin or something. And then Clone Wars fleshes out a little bit more the action there, because really the Clone Wars is at the end of Attack of the Clones, and it's full-fledged by the time we get Revenge of the Sith, and almost over by the middle of the movie. So I'm totally with you on all of that there. I think it's fun to kind of theorize what could have been, even though I, as a long time Star Wars fan, have actually really loved and defended the prequels, maybe to a fault. So this, as John said, really puts a bow on things. I why don't we get into Darth Maul a little bit here?
I was just going to bring that up.
That fight between Maul and Ahsoka is one of the best animated lightsaber duels ever.
That's
no doubt about it in my mind, if not the best.
I think
John, you're muted. You've been muted.
No, you're good now.
Okay. Yeah, that broke. Yeah, so that wasn't animated, right? That was mocap. That final that final fight was mocap. That was you could tell. I think if there's any issue I had with the animation style in the Clone Wars, it was how like magnetic the lightsabers felt. Like it was just so like I swing, you swing, and like there's this magnetism that brings it together. That was completely not there in this last fight. That was absolutely incredible.
And it goes on longer than most lightsaber fights would, especially in the animated series that we've seen.
Yeah,
it's really, really well done.
It is.
To see Ray Park, who played Darth Maul in Episode 1, be able to, like, it's clear that he's there.
Yeah.
His moves are, very decisive.
It's 100% the same guy. And I think more, like, to expound on this Darth Maul stuff, like, seeing his reaction to the way things were playing out was super fascinating. Like, that's a layer of this story that I did not know that I wanted, but I'm so glad that I got. To see the way he was like piecing together the puzzles, like, oh my god, this is what Sidious is up to. Like, oh my, like Order 66. Like, it's so cool to see people that were even the closest to the Chancellor not even know what he was doing with this, but just even though they were no longer really on his side, they had faith that he was going to pull it off. Like, Darth Maul is no longer an ally to Darth Sidious, right? Darth Sidious at the end of this, right? Like, he's nobody to him, but like you still see him speak about him like, oh, just wait, it's going to happen. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but y'all are done.
Isn't it kind of amazing that he knew the, certain events were going to happen? Like the puzzle pieces were there.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, he was that close to him. He was the apprentice. He was the original guy. Misfortune gets cast aside. And to see, I am so with you. It's almost like a horror element though, because there's a little bit of him being scared of Sidious.
Oh my god, yeah.
And I mean, Sidious destroyed him during the Clone Wars. We see that fight in one of the episodes, but I love it so much because he's talking to himself and he's like, okay, I see. This is what he was talking about. And oh my gosh, it's over. Like, it's all over. And then just say like, oh, Skywalker. It's all about Skywalker. All of it just blows my mind. Gives me goosebumps to even think about. What an angle. Rashaun, let's talk about that a little bit.
You stole the show, man. Incredible. I mean, Darth Maul wanted no parts of what Darth Sidious was doing. The most he was going to do was, I think his plan was to lure Anakin, and then he wanted him, either Darth Maul himself or Ahsoka, teamed up to take down Anakin, and then that would have foiled Sidious's plans that way, to where there would have been no apprentice. I believe that was something that he was referencing when he was talking to Ahsoka, when he was like, "Oh, you're not the Jedi I'm looking for." He either wanted Anakin, or I know he wanted Obi-Wan for sure. We all know that. But one of Darth Maul's plans was to get rid of Anakin as well, because Sidious was just he knew Sidious was too much. But yeah, and then all of his for a minute, I did think, maybe I'm the only one, I did think for a second we were gonna get, I don't know in what capacity, we were going to get some sort of Ahsoka Maul team up, like, for something. I thought that for a second, but my girl's too good. My girl's too good for that.
Yeah,
so,
they had me for a second there too.
But yeah, incredible stuff, man. Especially everything with Maul, man. One of my favorite, besides, Ahsoka's journey, but like throw that to the side for a second. My favorite thing about Clone Wars is the revival of Maul, and just seeing how he literally grew from having no legs, chopped up from episode 1, into obviously what we get later on in Rebels and etc.
Yeah, I did not. It's funny. At first, I was like, "Are you really bringing Darth Maul back? Like, this is ridiculous." That was my opinion at first. And to see where he went, and to see his incredibly satisfying arc that I will not spoil for John for Star Wars Rebels.
I already know it.
Okay, and then to see even like the cameo in Solo, I love all of it. Like we on the podcast Del and I were on tonight, we talked about favorite Star Wars characters, and I listed Darth Maul as my dark side character. Like that's it for me. And it's funny because I loved him even when I only knew that he was in the Phantom Menace. To see where he's gone since, been awesome.
Yeah, it was well done. It was one of those things where it's like, man, they really didn't have to bring him back, and like I think a lot of people probably shared your sentiment. It's like, what? Like, all right, we like Darth Maul, but you like really killed him, so this better be worth it, or else we're kind of not in. And it was worth it.
Yeah, and honestly, credit to George Lucas on this, who gets a lot of crap for what he did with the prequels, and some of it rightfully so. But the Clone Wars was his baby. A lot, he was right there alongside. Dave Filoni was his right-hand man. They did this together, and Darth Maul was something that he really wanted to happen. And they, like you said, it could have been done poorly, but they executed it nicely. The other thing that's nice too is in a small bit, we see like the beginning of Maul being like this crime lord to an extent in this last season.
Exactly.
And
that was needed.
Some cameos. We get Beckett, right? Beckett? No, not Beckett. Who's there's a cameo from someone from Solo. Is it Paul Bettany's character? Someone is in there. I can't recall. Yeah, it was quick.
I missed that.
Someone texted me it, and I was like, "Oh crap!"
Yeah. So you get like the setup of the Crimson Dawn stuff. It's cool.
Yeah, that's a nice little tie-in to Solo as well. I've said pretty much everything I'm feeling on the Clone Wars here. I think the final thing I wanted to get to was that very end sequence. So we get Darth Vader kind of walking up and finding the lightsaber there for Ahsoka.
That was great. So that explains why. So for me, the second that came about, I'm like, so that's why he thought she was dead, because obviously he found the light. He would. That's a logical thing. Oh, her body's buried under that wreckage somewhere. So that's the first. That's literally the first reaction I had when those credits rolled. Is like, and then again, just seeing Ahsoka now. Again, little petty thing of mine that I'm thinking of, but Ahsoka buried her lightsabers, but in Rebels she has lightsabers. So again, a little petty thing. I'm like, okay, interesting. I'm guessing in some story somewhere we will find out what happened with how she got weapons back and why they're white. But yeah, that's it.
Well, that would speak to them being new lightsabers potentially, right?
Yeah,
being even just the different color crystals. John, any emotions or thoughts as you see that Vader sequence there?
Absolutely. I mean, that like does such a good job at bridging the gap for me of the transition from Anakin to Vader. Like even just the shot of his eyes, like you actually see his eyes, not just like those burned like holes that we're used to kind of seeing from Vader. Like it just hit home. Like he's still so early on in Vader. He just probably gotten into that suit, and like his whole life. The life that he had known is probably just a couple hours away. Like he's just getting into this, and he's now seeing like one of the most important people in his life, other than Padme, who I mean, I guess he assumes died at his hand for the most part. I mean, he helped Sidious and Order 66 happen, and that's how it went. So just like seeing that human side of Vader is something that I don't think that the original trilogy did a great job of. I'm in the minority of like thinking that Vader's not the coolest villain in the world, especially in the original trilogy. I think that the Clone Wars did such a good job, and then the prequels complemented as well. But I think the Clone Wars and especially this final scene did a really good job of like really getting me on the side of like, man, Vader is a pretty deep character. There's a lot going on, and that final shot is just so cool.
I always feel like the best way to describe Darth Vader is just misunderstood in some ways, and it's that human element that hangs on, even though he's the spirit of Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker is dead, but all that incredible pain he went through. So not only did he lose Padme, seemingly at his hands, as Palpatine makes him believe, but that really his apprentice at that time he thought was gone. And then obviously, we see what happens later on in different series, but what a nice fitting way to end the journey from where we begin to all the way at the ending when we see Anakin's full transformation into Darth Vader.
So all those gaps are finally officially filled for that part of the timeline.
Clone Wars did a really good job putting a bow on a lot of stuff that was just like stuff that didn't even need to touch, but it did. It was really cool.
I didn't realize how I didn't think I felt that it was incomplete until I saw these final few episodes, and then I was like, now I know. Episodes 2 and 3 are really bridged. Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith. Like that is it. That's the bookend. Any closing thoughts at all that we didn't get to on Clone Wars for the final season here, Rashaun?
No, man, I think we nailed it. We crushed it.
We crushed it. I love it. I think that there's going to be a lot of people out there asking the question, should I just watch the last 4 episodes and not do the whole season? If you know that you're not going to commit, then the answer is yes. You should not miss out on these last 4 episodes. You're not going to have the weight. You're not going to understand Ahsoka, and it's not going to hit the way it should. So there's a lot of Clone Wars stuff you should watch, but if it comes down to the fact that you're really not going to do it, yes, watch these last 4 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, I echo that sentiment. We'll wrap this episode up of PlusCast here. We'll get where we can find everybody on social media, and just a quick plug for any other projects you're working on for the Geekiverse. So, Rashaun, where can people find you on Twitter, Instagram, and all of the like?
Yes, you can catch me in terms of my Geekiverse content. You can catch me here, of course, on the monthly Disney podcast, PlusCast. You can catch me weekly on the MCU Reviewed, as we talked about earlier. You can catch me bi-weekly on our gaming podcast, Geeks Guy Game. Outside of the Geekiverse, you can find me on Twitter, True King Zero, where I talk pretty much just all things entertainment at this point. Gaming, movies, Star Wars, Marvel, you name it. Any geek stuff, I'll have a little take on Twitter. And then if you are a gamer and you want to see, up and coming streamer, True King Zero on Twitch as well, where you can catch me streaming some games.
Nice.
Good stuff. John.
You'll find me on Twitter and Instagram at Disruptoid, talking about baseball and beer and video games and probably the MCU. So for the Geekiverse, the thing I'm really having a lot of fun with right now, and these two fine gentlemen as well. The MCU Reviewed has been a lot of fun. It's a project we're working on. We're on week 4 right now. Week 5 coming up. Captain America is going to be happening next week. It's been a really cool show. We're week to week we're watching these MCU movies, and we're doing a podcast where we review them, we rank them, we go through all this stuff. It's been awesome. So if you're looking for something to do while you're still quarantined at home, hop in with us. Follow along. Social media has been a lot of fun. We've had a lot of cool conversations on Twitter. So hop in there. That's what I'm really digging right now.
We really hit our stride with that show. We're having a lot of fun with it, as we do with all things at the Geekiverse. I am at Josiah D. Leroy. You can find me on all social media via that handle. The Geekiverse is celebrating its 6th anniversary all month here in the month of May. Check out thegeekiverse.storenvy.com to check out soon to be announced our 6th anniversary t-shirt, limited edition. Get it while the supplies are hot here, because once they're gone, they are gone for good. As John mentioned there, we're having a blast with MCU Review. I encourage you, if you are just a few weeks behind, go back, watch or listen to those episodes. We have a blast, and I think you'll have a blast listening along for the ride. For all Geekiverse content, you can watch our videos at youtube.com/thegeekiverse and listen to the podcasts on all or most major platform stations, such as Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Google Play, and much more. Final plug for me, if you like Star Wars, we talked a lot of Star Wars today. We just relaunched our all Star Wars talk show. On a monthly basis, you can find Walking Carpet on podcast and YouTube with my co-host there, Brian Patrick Stoyle. On next episode, I think we're going to talk about Rise of Skywalker Easter eggs. There's a lot of them out there, a lot. So we're going to compile a nice little list for you. I think it's a show worth tuning into. There's some I would almost guarantee that you haven't heard of just yet. So we're going to dig deep on that. And I think that's all I got. So for my friends John and Rashaun, I'm Josiah. We'll catch you next month for PlusCast.